Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can you hear me? Is it okay? Yes? Okay. So the aim of this communication is to retake some points of the communication presented in 2015 in Brazil. We had a symposium in Brazil as well. We were invited by the Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture, and it was actually our first contact with Said Nursi, in Brazil in general, I can say that. And in this meeting, actually this opportunity made me realize the importance of Said Nursi to actually know more about Islam, and especially the Quran. So I found there a really great opportunity as a researcher to learn more, because in Brazil we don't have good resources to study Islam. So I think it's important to highlight my place of speech. As Professor told, I'm a social anthropologist. And our fundamental question in anthropology is, what does human being mean? And we do that as a social category, you know. We look at human beings not as animals, not as something that is already given, is something that we construct day by day, okay? So I tried to get closer to Said Nursi's works with this approach. So what can I find in his works to think this fundamental anthropological question? And to do that, I think it's important to elucidate a fundamental concept in anthropology, that is culture. This concept nowadays is really identified with identity, you know. People say culture, people think identity. But for us, anthropologists, is something much more bigger than that. It's something that is relational, is something that is object of dispute, is something that we are always fighting for. It's not something that we can just, you know, take for granted. So over the past 2 centuries, the reformulations about the term culture have directly influenced the equating ways of human category. According to Tim Engel, that is a really important anthropologist nowadays, have produced a unique relationship between humans and animals, in which one of the first should be conceived as an alternative state of being, not as a member of a province with a kingdom. We always detach the human being. We always give us a special place in the world, as you know. It's also important to say that I'm a partisan of Clifford Geertz's anthropology. He's one of actually the most important anthropologists nowadays in Brazil, and what he does, it's called interpretative anthropology. So it's almost like an hermeneutics anthropology, you know? And that's why I believe it's important to think that human, in general, are animals tied in webs of significance. And we are always working on this process of signifying our lives and our ways in the world, okay? In this sense, it seems appropriate to quote here Lévi-Strauss' premise about Jacques Rousseau's works, Discourse on Inequality, which may be considered as the first treatise of general anthropology in French literature, because in it, the thinker deals on the great anthropological question, the passage from nature to culture. In this work, Rousseau elaborates assumptions about human nature, or the natural human, conceiving it as an ingenious machine to which nature has given senses. The conception dialogues, as far as I can see, with that one developed by Said Nursi on the letters, when he says that the creation of a being like the human is pretty similar as a machine assembled with hundreds of different components and systems. And also, on the fruits of faith, Said Nursi points out that human beings are a living machine that is sad with thousands of different sorrows and receives pleasure in different ways. So let's return to this dichotomy between human and animals, and also talk a little bit about culture. When we talk about culture, we have a hidden subject in the sentence we elaborate, in the discourses we elaborate. It's human. When we think about culture, generally we think about human, we don't think about animals. So understanding humanity, or at least trying to do that, is to engage in the comprehension of a relationship, considering that our social mind is extremely dichotomous as a legacy of the modern Enlightenment project that's not overcome yet. And because of that, we give meanings to our apprehensions through associations and comparisons, which are often bipolar. Then Tin Ingold states that from the classics to the present day, the animals have occupied a central position in the Western construction of humans concept, and that animality is considered as a deficiency of all abilities that only we own, including language, reason, intellect, and moral conscience. We find this assumption in Rousseau as well, when he points out that human is a less strong animal than some, less agile than others, but on the whole, it's more organized than all the other animals. We can also find this on the fruits of faith, when Nursi says that human cannot be like an animal because animals have no past and future. They do not feel neither sorrows nor regret about the past or anxiety and fear about the future. And also that human beings' superiority over the other living beings is related to their high qualities, their extensive spheres of existence, and especially their ability to worship God. According to Ramon Grosfuego, we all have epistemic geopolitical places and political bodies as pronouncement points, even if they are often eclipsed or colonized or silenced, as often happens with social actors that do not fit in the hegemonic interests such as women, no whites, refugees, and so on. When we take Said Nursi's works as a subject of reflection, we soon realize that their anthropological discourses are constructed since a religious epistemological place, more precisely an Islamic one. And as well punctuated by Jung, religion is a vision of life and attitude towards life and a norm of the world. To that, I add the relevance to emphasize that religions do not exist by themselves, losing the world, but it's through practice that it exists, and it can only be done as a human activity, and consequently, as a creative act highlighted permeably to subjectivities, social and political spheres that percolate those ones who profess any religion that is part of the social life and the daily routine of those who practice. On the letters, Said Nursi says that God created human beings as a comprehensive species, in place of many others with whom, however, they are connected. Further, he says that humans are the tail index of the universe, their hearts resemble 1,000 of world maps, and they are the place of manifestations of countless cosmic truths. So in this sense, their brains, or our brains, constitutes the center of the universe. Although the Turkish wise mentions that human beings have free will and that they have no inherent limit and no natural restriction, he elaborates several times different discursive constructions that suggest the existence of intrinsically human elements, such as on Fruits of Faith, when he states that human nature is to reject lies. You know, he says that, and he also says that by nature, humans are noble, truth seekers, and they were created to gain immortality through progress. The idea of progress constructed on Said Nursi's text is intrinsically related to his notion of belief. And for him, the belief would be achieved through humans' reason and the free will as well. Furthermore, although he points out that humans are the final fruit and the most complete tree of the universe, and there's matter being and its most perfect fruit, he also points out strongly that humans who do not know their owner suffer from desperation. Moreover, on the letters, Nursi asserts that there is inside the human beings a sample of the ordered art in the universe, just in a very small scale, and this microscopic art points to the Creator and shows his unity. In this sense, on the fruits of faith, Nursi argues that the ultimate goal of human creation is to please and worship the glorious Creator, and only Him, and that belief is the only way to achieve happiness in this world and in the next one as well. That is the only way to find truth and pleasure without pain. In this sense, humans can only be successful if they are loyal. Besides that, their loyalty would be directly related to their humanity. Nursi also says that when the belief in God and in life after death enters into someone's home, it illuminates that home completely, and it's going to produce among those who live in it a sincere and respectful love, as well as compassion and loyalty among them. The belief, however, is not constant. Then, on the letters, Nursi highlights that since human beings themselves and the world we live in are being continuously renewed, we need a constant revitalization of our faith. Consider that the indistinct soul, the desire, the doubt, and shaitan have great influence on human beings, and we have a propensity to act and speak words that are opposed to Sharia. I also realize that, especially on the words, Nursi considers that belief has a fundamental role not only in what he calls transitory life, but in the way he develops his human nature idea. On that, he will say that by nature, humans are extremely weak, that everything they touch makes them sad and afflicted, and they are totally powerless and extremely poor, and their reason shows them high goals and lasting fruits. But their hands are short, their lives are brief, their power is delicate, and their patience is low. Moreover, Nursi points out that no matter how difficult and distressing this world is to them, once they see it as a paradise's waiting room, they support it and live it patiently. So that human's nature and spiritual faculties show that they are created to worship and that their belief gives them full confidence. I also find on Nursi's writing some good elements to think about the dynamics of belief as a practice, for example, when he speaks of the importance of daily prayers performing, not just to maintain the belief, but also for its expansion. The worship of God would help to enhance believers' humanity of those who practice. That's why worshiping is conceived as a truly human duty and as the proper and natural function of human creation. It's important to add here an observation raised by one of our lectures colleagues at our meeting in Brazil in 2015. He told me that worship is beyond prayer, because it's something that is practiced in daily life, like to be kind to someone, to care about someone, to help someone when they need. Then, in a dialogue with all the ideas that were exposed until this moment, we can say that worship is a way to expand our humanity as well, not our belief condition. I think that's it. Thank you.